Hello friends, this is Sam Cheney reporting for WeaponizedNews.com. Today is October 2nd, 2016, and we continue to report about the global economic slowdown, recession, depression, collapse. Venezuela's especially hit hard. Their economy has collapsed due to socialist communist government failure. This is what happens when left-wing socialist communists take over your government and do away with the free market. At a loss for meds, Venezuela's mentally ill spiraled downward. Report out of the New York Times. The country's last supplies of antipsychotic medication were vanishing, and a mentally ill man had gone weeks without his drugs to control his schizophrenia, causing his reality to degenerate every day. He started to hear voices. He took an electric grinder from his family's garage and switched it on. But then, to spare his brother, he attacked himself instead, slicing into his own arm until his father raced in and grabbed the grinder from his bloody hands. Venezuela's economic collapse has already disintegrated its health system, leaving hospitals without antibiotics, surgeons without gloves, and patients dying on emergency room tables. Now thousands of mental health patients, many of whom had been living relatively normal lives under medication, are drifting into despair and psychosis because the country has ran out of the vast majority of psychiatric medications, leaving families and doctors powerless to help the mentally ill. Mental institutions have released thousands of patients because they can no longer treat them. This is very sad what's happening in Venezuela. Society is degenerating and collapsing. Newborn babies found sleeping in cardboard boxes as Venezuela economic crisis reaches new low. Is this what the children deserve? Here's pictures of it. Newborn babies in Venezuela are being kept in cardboard boxes. The cash-strapped hospitals of Venezuela can't afford to house newborn babies in anything other than cardboard boxes. The image shows infants lined up in makeshift cots with their medical charts taped to the face of the boxes. It gets worse. Hungry Venezuelans, report out of Daily Mail, hungry Venezuelans stop a livestock truck and steal crates of chickens after country's food shortage spirals out of control. Socialist run South American country is in the grip of a severe food crisis. Footage shows people stopping truck on motorway and stealing chickens. Traffic stands still as people dash to grab the birds out of their containers. There's a photo of it. It's hard to see. The video's been taken down. Traffic comes to a standstill as dozens of hungry people sprint over to the truck to grab birds out of the containers. The incident has been held up as yet another example of the country's economic crisis where looting has become commonplace. Last month we reported on hungry people going into a zoo and eating zoo animals, eating horses, eating whatever they can get their hands on because they're going hungry under this failed socialist communist government. There have been calls for President Nicolas Maduro, a socialist, to step down because of the shortages. Earlier this month, he was chased through the streets of Caracas after hordes of angry protesters banging on pots and pans shouted, "We are hungry, we are hungry." The opposition governor of Venezuela's second largest state, Enrique capillaris declared a food emergency last month, blaming the socialists' misguided policies. We are declaring a food emergency in our state, said Capillaris. The governor of Miranda State, who is leading a campaign to remove President Nicolas Maduro from office in a recall referendum. And of course, here he is, good buddies with our criminal, Skull and Bones member, Secretary of State John Kerry. These guys are all in a big club, and we ain't in it. The oil-rich country of Venezuela has veered into crisis as crude prices have collapsed since mid-2014, threatening Maduro and his 17 years of socialist rule. Maduro blames the shortages on an economic war by the business sector, which he accused of withholding supplies to undermine his government. Middle class forced to scavenge for scraps in Venezuela. Let's take a look at this video. People forced to eat rubbish. The economy has collapsed in Venezuela. Schoolboys digging through the garbage for food. Old couples scavenging for food. Hipsters scavenging for food. A grandfather digging through the garbage for food. Live on rubbish. With huge queues outside supermarkets each day. Many people simply have no choice. And that, my friends, are the fruits of a communist socialist government. Economic collapse. A resource-rich country that can't feed its own people, causing massive crime, riots, looting, honest people living out of garbage cans, a failed medical system, a failed mental health system, a failed state, collapse of society. That's what you get from socialist, communist governments. Do your own research about the horror of the failed state and the collapsing society of Venezuela, and pray for these people. Subscribe to this channel, speak out, and take action.